us on the mic, talking life and what's alike. Middle age, it's quite the ride, finding joy and chasing pride. Career dreams and daily grind, funny moments that we find. Letting go of yesterday, making paths along the way. Middle age.
Hi, Tim.
Hey, Trav. It took me a moment there.
You good?
It took me a moment there. You know, I've been blowing leaves in the yard today, and maybe I got too much of the dirt from the yard in my head or something.
Well, whatever excuse you need, it's fine.
Yeah, I'll always find an excuse that probably doesn't make any sense to anyone but myself. So, how are you?
That's all right. Hey, man, I'm all right.
Yeah,
okay.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday indeed.
What's going on in Ohio?
It's a beautiful fall day, actually.
Nice.
Just celebrated Elliot's 11th birthday.
Nice.
Everything's good. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. Well, happy birthday to the little man. Let's.
Yeah.
I'm sure when he gets older and is listening to these episodes, he'll think, "Wow, I can't believe they mentioned me."
No doubt, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, man. Let's jump in. It's time to get going. What do you got
it.
for hair care? Did you get that beard oil?
Actually, you know what? Before we jump into that, I'm going to give us the catch-up. Reminder for those who have been here before and an intro for the first-time listeners. The Tim and Trav Podcast is basically about life in our 40s and transitions and everything in between. So, yes, now I'm going to give you my hair care, and I'm so honored that you actually remembered.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I did get a beard balm. Is what it's called. It's called the King C. Gillette Soft Beard Balm. I had to write that down.
Sure.
It actually works really well. It smells really good. It's not super oily. I don't know if all these things are normal for a beard balm. I have no idea. But I like it, and I found it after some reviews and stuff, so I feel like I've kind of even vetted it. So it's pretty good. If you have a beard or are growing a beard, I highly recommend it.
Very interesting. I don't know if I'll ever purchase something like that. I mean, I'm not planning on growing a beard, but that's interesting. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do you use shaving cream when you shave?
No, I haven't been clean shaven in years. Okay. So yeah, when I'm clean shaven, I would, but I haven't been clean shaven in years.
I'm just going to put this out there. It's sort of meaningless. I shave like, a portion of my neck. With a razor. I haven't bought a thing of shaving cream in about 10 years.
What do you use?
Soap.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just lather up some soap and have at it. It works just as well.
I'm just glad I know you own soap. I was uncertain before.
All right, let's keep going. Awesome wife moment. What you got?
I have one. We've talked about the birthdays. We've talked about the various different ways that both of our wives are very attentive as mothers. I'm going to kind of piggyback on that a little bit, but I'm going to give everybody an idea while I do it. So, one of the things about being 11 or being a kid in general is it's super fun to open things, right? And, we try and sidestep the consumerism as much as possible, but you're still a little kid and, you still love to open presents. So one of the things, in addition to the regular kind of gifts like he wanted, Kristen also was really smart and really, there was some ingenuity to it. And she ended up, we have to get Elliot basketball shoes. Now look, we have to get him basketball shoes regardless. Doesn't matter if he has a birthday or not. He's playing basketball. They require him to wear shoes that aren't worn outside. We have to get him basketball shoes. That's part of the deal. But she wrote him and created this little gift card for a certain amount of money to go buy basketball shoes. It's well, that wasn't really part of the plan, but it feels cool. And then he gets some, a little bit of autonomy to go pick it out himself. And so we did that today, which was really cool. And she had a couple other ideas along those same lines. It's speaking of shoes, he actually needs another pair of shoes. So, let's give him gift cards to wherever to go get shoes. And it's look, we're parents. We have to provide him with shoes anyway, but now it's a gift. So now it feels cool. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's it was very smart on her part. So that's my awesome wife moment.
That's cool, man. I think that's great. I hear your struggle on the birthdays and the gifts. I don't know about you, but I found myself just sort of historically, when it's a month out or a couple weeks out and we're talking about what to purchase for our child or, for a certain kid for their birthday. And I'm like, let's just keep it simple, right? That's sort of what my tone is at that point. And then like inevitably the day before I start to think to myself, oh my God, I'm a terrible parent. I didn't do enough. And I like rush out and make like a last minute purchase. It is so strange. I repeat it every single time.
Yep. Same here.
You do?
100%.
It's so weird, man. Yeah, it's so funny because you just want your kid to have this special experience.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And you start listening to yourself if you're like me, or you get in your own little echo chamber, and it's like, this is what makes me a good dad, is this kind of attention, and he or she is only going to be, they're only going to turn 10 once, and then you start putting this onus on it, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, our kids want for nothing, so like it's kind of one of those like, spoiler on a spoiler, but still, we're also very fortunate that we can do that. So
yeah, that's cool. All right, man. Can I jump into mine real quick?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Two simple things. Christy was flying to Chicago for a quick work trip earlier in the week, and I didn't know about this until later. But she was only gone for one night, so it was easy. But she was taking photos of the plane and of like out the window of the plane and sending them directly to Connor, my oldest son, which I thought was just really cool. Connor loves aviation. He loves like all this stuff. I don't know if I would necessarily have done that, right? Like if I were on a plane, I don't know if I would have thought to have done that. And I just think it was such a beautiful reflection of her always putting her kids first, right? And always finding ways to interact or engage with them. And I wish I were better at it, frankly. Like it's such a simple and small thing that, you can easily exercise, but it's having the wherewithal to like pull in that moment and be present to it. So I just love the way that she handles that. I love when he told me later that night that, oh yeah, I've been texting with mom. She's sending me photos of the plane. I was like, that's just so cool, man. Like, I'm so glad that my wife does stuff like that. Yeah. And then another thing that is related to my kids, my daughter, Quinn, was on the ballot, right? It's election season, for secretary at her school. And so we didn't know about this, but she needed a poster. We found out, I don't know why we weren't made aware, but we found out very last minute. And like literally the night before it was due. And I was like, this is never going to happen. There's just no way we can turn this around. So lo and behold, right, the next morning, Christy finds like this half of a poster sheet that we had, creates this beautiful thing with her before rushing out the door to work. And I was like, you know what? I would have been searching for magazines and cutting out pictures, and it never would have turned out as beautiful as it did. And I have no artistic ability anyways, which is just a problem. So I just loved like how she had a moment where we had to get something resolved and she hit it out of the park. It was awesome. And I loved it. And guess what? Quinn won the election.
No way! I was just gonna ask. That's awesome.
She won the election. Yeah.
All right, look at that.
I know.
I don't know, man. We've had a lot of really good awesome wife moments because we have awesome wives. But have you noticed how much of what we say is solving problems and being solutions oriented?
That's a great point.
Do you think we're the problem? Like, do you think the basis of our relationships, did we just have a breakthrough? Like, is the basis of our relationships the fact that we're problems and they're solutions-oriented people?
Not necessarily. No, I think you're making this much worse than it actually is. In most scenarios, they're solving problems that we're sort of, both indirectly and directly related to. So I don't think that we're necessarily creating the problem. I think that they're just quicker and more efficient, and they take care of the task in a better way that you and I probably could.
I think it's also, maybe we should give ourselves some credit because we've been giving them a lot of training ever since the day we met them to, like solve problems. Like I can imagine you and Christy met at Fairfield, right?
Yeah, correct.
Like, did she just look across the room and say, I can fix that? Like, is that
what... One of these days we'll have to have our wives on and analyze this a bit more fully.
I like it.
But you may be onto something there. So, listen, but to your point, we're very lucky guys.
Yes, we are. for sure.
Right? We're very lucky. So tell me about something awesome that's going on in your life that you've seen or experienced recently.
So can I throw out 2 things if I promise to make them quick?
Do it.
This morning, I was going to get bagels for the family. And, it's a bagel shop. It's busy. It's Sunday morning. So it's like this place is hopping. Yeah. And I have no idea how early you have to get up to work at a bagel shop. I can only imagine it is an ungodly hour of the morning. Yeah. And, the people in there were super nice. They're super friendly like they always are. And this woman we are very plain bagel type people. So we just got like a baker's dozen or whatever. And she's pulling them out of the baskets. And one of the baskets is way up high. And she goes to shake the basket to get them like the bagels closer to her. And one of them pops out. The athleticism that this woman displayed in putting the box underneath that falling bagel was unreal. It was like, holy cow. She caught it. And by the way, there were already other bagels in the box. So she didn't spill any of those. And then she was so shocked she actually pulled it off. She turned around like, did anybody see that? And I caught her eye and I was like, that was amazing. And she goes, I'm giving you that bagel for free. That was amazing. She's like, I can't believe I actually caught that. And I was like, I looked around and she and I had this little, conversation moment, whatever you want to call it. And then I looked around and no one else saw it because they were all on their phones. And it was like, dude, this is the kind of thing. Like I'm just as guilty as anybody of burying myself in my phone. But like it was kind of like, not only was it a fun, awesome moment, but it made me really realize like, look, if I'd just been doom scrolling or something and I'd missed that wouldn't have been like, come on, this is, these are the little things.
That's a great reminder. That's a great reminder. Yeah.
So I don't want to make too big of a meal of it, but it was really fun. And then the one that I had planned, the other awesome thing is a friend of mine, Aaron, gave me this thing a long time ago. And it is, for those of you not just listening, not watching, I'm going to describe it. It is a crochet pineapple, okay? And it's holding a little cardboard sign that says, fine apple. It's fine, you're fine, everything's fine. And she gave it to me. She gave it to me as kind of a joke because I tend to not really recognize my own things. Like I tend to blow things off if it's a problem. And she has made me really realize like, hey, martyrdom doesn't get you anywhere, dummy. Like you can acknowledge when things are bad and you can acknowledge things when good, like that kind of thing. So my friend Aaron gave me that. I have it sitting on my desk. It's one of those things that I should probably look at more often just to acknowledge how I'm feeling and where I am. But that's my awesome little thing that I really appreciate. Also, there's a healthy dose of sarcasm in it, so I like that.
That's cool. Trav, did she make that?
No, she didn't make it. She bought it. I would actually really love for her to try to make it, though. That would be hilarious.
She may have
she even listens to this.
If you asked me to make that, I would say, give me 5 years.
And then you just have somebody else do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I bet Christy could figure it out.
Oh, she probably could. Much quicker than me, man. Way to circle back to that one. I love both those stories. I think that's really great. But, I mean, geez, your one about the people on the phones really resonated with me. Like you, I'm guilty of doing that, man. But I think those moments where we can interact with one another and in sort of spaces where we don't normally do it are very important.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. That's a great way to put it. What about you, man?
So mine's pretty short and sweet. I've shared previously that I'm a fan of the New York Red Bulls, the MLS soccer team. I don't know if you follow, and you may be a little bit upset about this, but they, just based off of your Columbus connection, they defeated in the first playoff game, they defeated the Columbus Crew, the reigning MLS champions. It's a 3-game series, and they beat them in the first 2, which nobody expected. Like, this was a huge upset on every level, and the games were amazing. Like, they were just so fun to watch. So they're on to the Eastern Conference semifinals. I'm just thrilled for them. The last time they'd been this far was 2018. Mm-hmm. I wasn't as much of a fan back then, but I love soccer, and it's actually quite fun to follow a team. I always kind of was like, never really understood why people did it until now. And I'm a huge fan of this team. It's fun to kind of get to know the players and go to games. And it was really cool. So I'm super happy about that.
That's awesome. And so they move on to the next round. Who do they play in the next round?
So they're playing New York Football Club next Saturday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's weird because I don't know why they structure it this way, but the next game is just single elimination. So it's a one game and you're either moving on or out. So we're just hoping for the best. It'd be really cool if they went on. And it's a big rivalry between New York Football Club and New York Red Bulls. So it should be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. All right. Well, good luck to the Red Bulls.
Thank you, Trav. And I'm sorry about the crew. They're an impressive team. I have to say, they're impressive.
Yeah, it's, you were birthed by Ohio soccer. You know how this goes. Like, people take it seriously. Yeah, they do. And they've got some really dynamic players. So it was fun to watch. I like it. That's awesome. Well, hopefully they can keep going. And you said it was unexpected? You said it was a pretty unexpected.
Huge underdog going in. So those are just kind of fun to watch anyways. Yeah. And the second game went into a shootout at the end. And we were on the edge of our seat watching this thing. It was wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
Is the whole family into it or just you?
It's mainly Nolan and I, to be honest with you. I mean, the energy kind of like, and this is what happens naturally, right? When you talk to someone who's really excited about something, it kind of like, how can it not help it wear off on you a little bit? Totally, I think Christy and the other two, Connor doesn't really care. Quinn, she doesn't necessarily care either, but Christy gets into it a little bit too.
That's cool. That's
it's cool, man. Yeah. So, any sponsors?
No sponsors. But I do think that we've started to hit a little bit of a stride because we're starting to be approached as like possible clients for people. Yeah. So, you're onto something when people want what money you don't have.
I hear you. Can I share something funny? I was with a bunch of friends last night. And one of them said, he listens and he was talking about the Dyson situation and our, my desire primarily. I know I enjoy vacuuming more than you do. But he said, and there was also another conversation going on around that Mike Tyson fight that happened this past weekend. Yeah. So he said, why don't you write to Dyson and tell them that if they'll give you a sponsorship, you'll change your name to Mike Dyson. I thought that was funny.
That's so bad it's funny.
It was kind of so bad it was funny, but I give him credit for that. So I know I did reach out to them. I haven't heard back. I dropped a note into the community. It looks like it's had about 7 views. So we'll see if that gets anywhere.
It's getting legs. Now, did you have to create a username for this community?
I did, yeah.
And without blowing up your spot, did you use a vacuuming pun in your username?
Yes and no. My username is Tim Loves 2, the number 2 vacuum.
Quippy. I like it.
Listen, I thought it was appropriate. It speaks the truth.
Wow. That's, man, all the places I thought this would go, this isn't one of them. All right.
No, I never anticipated myself joining the Dyson community.
Yeah, you're a wholehearted member now, brother.
I'm doing it just for this podcast. I can tell you, if we never did this podcast, I probably wouldn't be joining the Dyson community. But I'm glad to try.
All about opening doors. Look at that.
Everything in life is an experiment, right? So, but I do want to share, and I know nobody wrote in, but I was with several different families last night from our old neighborhood, and got some really great feedback, which I was really grateful for. That's great. That was cool. One person in particular, his name's Kevin, who's just a great guy, had shared how much he enjoyed our guests, and the stories that they were sharing. So he actually said he enjoyed the guests more than the two of us, but that's sort of what we expect.
Yeah. I was going to say that was kind of the plan all along, so that works. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, appreciate it. It was cool. So it was really fun, and people of all ages actually too, which was really funny. There was a younger, I think teenage age girl. She and her mom listen when they're in the car together, which is kind of funny. So we're hitting all audiences.
We might just be a precautionary tale, but that's okay. So can I use that to segue into our guest segment?
So yeah, Kari Grove, this is very exciting to have her come and join us. Very interesting industry, which we all maybe have been a part of, but know not so much about. So this is going to be a great conversation. Let's bring her in. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. Great to see you, and welcome to Kari Grove, our esteemed guest. Welcome, Kari.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you. And Kari, now I know that to start, I know that you want to say, look, Tim and Trav, I've been listening. I'm a devout listener. I play it every night when my family's having dinner. I make my kids listen to it at bedtime. We're not here to talk about that, okay? We're here to talk about you.
I did listen to the veterinarian one in the car, and my daughter did hear a bit of it and ask a lot about insurance questions. So if that makes me your number one fan, there you go.
Absolutely.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Well, Kari, it's awesome to have you on, and really excited to hear a little bit more about your professional journey. Certainly about what you're doing now, but maybe you could start by just giving us a little bit of an insight into, where you came from and build up your trajectory to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually one of the most popular questions I get asked from anybody that I ever meet is, how did you get into this? I'm a camp director / owner. So my husband and I, we own a private day camp in New Jersey and work like crazy. So how did I get into it? It starts when I was about 9 or 10 years old. My parents sent me away to sleepaway camp, and I had no idea what I was in for. And it turned out to be the best decision that my parents ever made for me in my entire life. It became a place of happiness and just amazing community and friends and family that I looked forward to joining every single summer for that, short amount of time at camp. And
where was that camp, Kari? Sorry to interrupt. Where was that camp?
So the camp is in Pennsylvania, so it's about 2 hours from where I lived.
Okay.
And I had an older sister, and you often see this in camping. It's like they send the older sibling off first, make sure it's okay, and then they send the others. So I was the second one to go, and my brother followed after me. So I wound up going there for most of my entire adolescent career to the same camp, and everybody comes back. And if you guys don't know much about camp, that's kind of typical. So, you stay in touch a little bit during the year, but you're really full force for those 2 months, in it to win it with all of your friends, and the staff too are part of it.
Can I interrupt you again? I'm sorry.
You can ask as many questions as you like. It's your podcast.
I appreciate. Oh, thank you. Wow, I appreciate that. Were the kids that were going to that camp largely from the Pennsylvania area or the Jersey area, or were they even extending further than that?
It's a great question. This was probably 1991 or so, around there. It was probably most New Jerseyans, New York, Long Island, Westchester, and some Florida kids. Actually.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So that kind of sparked my love of this is my place. And working with kids for the last 26 years, some kids really like sports, and when they get on the soccer field, that is their place. That's what they want to do. That's where they are. For me, camp was my place. I never missed my parents. I never missed what was going on at home. I could care less. This was it. This is what I look forward to. And that's where I wanted to be. And then as I got older, you realize you can't be here. You can't be in this fun place forever. You can't just hang out with your friends and do activities and sports and crafts and just be with them all the time. That's not the way the world works. So I got a real job, as many would put it. And I graduated with my BA, and I got a job in event planning for large pharmaceutical companies, because the way that I was taught by my parents was that you need to work, you need money. That's the way that I grew up. Now, sure. Not everybody grows up like that. So you just take a job and you'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I hated it. I hated that job. It was a cubicle job. And I had worked in other jobs before, when I was first starting out, I wanted a car, so I got a job at our local bakery. Now that, let me tell you, as a 17-year-old going into a bakery at 4 a.m. and working until 12 on the weekends, that's a whole other story. But, working in a cubicle, I quickly realized this is not for me. This is not what I enjoy. Whether, is this what people do? And I like started questioning, like most people who graduate college, like I have this degree. What am I doing with this? Like I have a bachelor's in psychology and I think American studies. Like that's not a skill, Is that a skill? So I quickly kind of quit and called my camp director and it was about like April or March time when I knew that camp was kind of coming up, and I said, listen, I'm not happy. I need to figure out what I want to do, and I really want to come back to camp for the summer and sort my life through and figure this out. And I was like, but I have a problem because now I graduated college and I need health insurance. Like I can't not have a job. I was like, so I don't know how I convinced him. He liked me. To put me on the health insurance for like 6 months while I figured my life out, and he employed me, and I never left. And that's kind of the long story short of how I ended up where I am today. Is a little bit different, but that's how camping became a profession for me, where I honestly never even thought it wasn't in my realm that I could do that I could do this. And now when I hear kids, I just had like a magical experience. I went back to the camp that I started as a camp director, and there were some people still working there. And one of the girls came up to me, and she's probably in grad school now. And she said, she said, I have to tell you something. When I was little, I wanted to be you. She's like, I just want to be you. And I was like, that was like the first time that I had heard that from somebody. It was so empowering. And I'm like, wow, like she knew at that age that like, and she is in camping now. She works full time for a different camp.
Wow.
And like she knew at that age that she could do that. And that's what she wanted to be. And that's where she is. And it was like so inspiring and amazing. But yes, it's a interesting path to travel along. But I think most people probably find themselves weaving in and out. But apparently I just went right for it.
Well, it's so interesting. And I want to get to your current, day to day, because I know that it is busy. I know your plate and your husband's plate is incredibly full with, managing that. I know we both want to hear about that, but I am intrigued. A lot of our guests, have bounced around, and it's really interesting. I think you said when you were 9, that's when like your first love of this environment really set in. And it's really interesting to hear about someone who stays in that path. How long did you serve in the event planning role? How long did that last?
Oh God. Maybe 6 months.
Wow.
At most.
So you knew right away that was not the place for you.
So I had worked like previous summers at camp, like as a camp counselor. Like I wasn't part of the admin or full-time staff. So like that was a job where, listen, I was not making much money. I could tell you probably my first year on staff was probably 2001. And I was probably, I don't know, 17 or 18. I was making $500 for 8 weeks of intensive work. Like I worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Maybe I got an hour or two off, but like I wasn't getting paid enormous amounts. But that's how much it paid back then. But I realized that you can get paid to do something you love, and that is something that I wasn't willing to sacrifice. Like, and I knew that early on. Like, I can't be miserable.
Yeah,
sure. Do you feel like you'd come out of college and made that realization? Luckily, fairly early on in your career. Do you feel like you would have done something differently with your higher education had you had that in mind going into it? Or do you feel like it all just kind of worked out?
I think it just kind of worked out, to be honest with you. So I have a master's degree in social work. And the reason why I got it was nothing magical. It allowed me to, my former boss he was a social worker, and I worked with 2 other camp directors who were social workers or had social work degrees, and they kind of pushed me to do it at the time when I was still fresh right out of getting my bachelor's. And I was like, you know what? It's a diverse degree. And I saw people who had social work degrees that worked in hospitals. They worked in schools. I worked with them at camp. So I thought that if I did this, it would open a few doors. And I, till to this day, I keep my school social work certificate, and whatever else I got at that point. But I think if I knew I was going to probably go into camping, I probably wouldn't have gotten a master's degree. But you want to know something very interesting? They started running master's degree programs in camping at specific universities, which
That's cool.
really cool to me. I was like,
That is
wow,
cool.
if that was around then, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Kari, can you share with us a little bit more now about, your current day to day? I mean, there are so many moving pieces, and especially obviously when your camp is in full session. So that, and then I'd love as well to hear about how camp today is different than camp in 2000. What year was that? 1990, whatever year that was. When you were 9, we don't have to worry about ages, but when you were 9, obviously, like all things, the world has evolved, and I'd love to know about those differences.
Did you guys go to camp as kids or do any camps?
We both got thrown out of camp.
No.
No, I didn't get
Just
thrown
kidding.
out.
No,
Thrown out of the house into camp.
We did a lot of camp. We had mainly local camps together in Perrysburg, but they were just sort of day activities. It was often, I think, Trav, correct me if I'm wrong, but I went to a lot of the local township camps. We didn't do anything. We weren't at private camps. Kari, I was a camp counselor, however, one summer. I don't think I've told you that.
So was I.
That's exciting.
It was cool.
Did you enjoy your experience?
I did. I'll talk to you more about that later.
We talk offline about that. Okay.
No, but so tell us a little bit more about your how many kids you have, your staff. I mean, all of the moving pieces.
Yeah. So often I explain that all camps run like a village within themselves. So we have housing, we have septic systems, we have lakes, we have pools, we have huge facilities. We have a maintenance team and crew, and then, that's kind of all the behind the scenes stuff that's happening. And then we also have the front house of stuff, which is we serve kids 4 years old all the way up to about 15 or 16. So we call it pre-K through 10th grade, or still campers here at Lakeview. And we serve about 1,000 kids each summer, and about 250 to 300 staff here at one time.
Wow.
And the staff these are international, right? I mean, it's not just local.
Both.
Yeah.
So we have both. So the 300 staff combined, that could be, we have 40 something bus drivers that are our staff. We have 25 international staff, and you guys, we can have a whole separate podcast about what it is like to supervise 25 internationals from the age of 21 to 30. That is a whole other... You'll have so many questions about that.
And Kari, I just want to be clear, because they're living on your campus while they are working.
Oh, yeah. And my family live here on our site. We have about 23 acres here. So we live with them, which is such a great experience, unlike any other. So there's so many moving parts that a lot of people don't understand. And even when I was young in this profession and didn't understand that, why do I need to understand septic tanks and sewage plants? Because that's not part of being a camp director. And if I told you that I dealt with, during the year, the 10 months that camp isn't running, 60% of my day is septic and figuring out sewage as a camp director, you would laugh and think that's not true, but it is.
Yeah, you see it all, right? I mean, and you have to the best of your ability, maintain a level of expertise in so many different spaces.
That is correct. And that's what is the most difficult. And that's what I find, having so many great middle management employees who are experts in sports, experts in lake and aquatics and things that, that I can't. And I told you before, my husband and I are partners. And a lot of people always ask me this question too, like, oh my God, like, how do you work with your significant other? Again, another topic for your podcast, for you guys. But we have very definitive lines of who is responsible for what, which makes it a lot easier when you have two people in charge of a massive operation. So, kids come a little bit about like more of what we do. We kind of specialize in everything. We try to, as Tim just said, that we try to hire experts in every single field. So the kids come here and they're going to get sports, they're going to get arts, they're going to get swim. We're going to teach them to swim if they don't know how to swim. They're going to get on the lake. They're going to get on our adventure course with zip lines. We have built really cool, one-of-a-kind facilities here that no other camp has. We have a custom-built tree house, a custom-built like netting system that we call the cocoon, which is like sensory, and like it is so cool. And we're always looking to build things that are unique and different. And also offer it at the highest level. So we have supervisors who collect lesson plans from all the instructors, and the instructors are not the counselors that take care of the kids. That's a totally different staff. The instructors are, they're doing those fun, awesome lessons to keep the kids engaged and make sure that they're coming out with some skills of each activity period. So it's crazy, it's insane. I realized the other day for the first time how insane my job is compared to other people's jobs. We were at a friend's house for dinner, and there were two other couples there, and half of the couples were like, oh, I talked to like 20 people today, and I told my boss, like, I was just done at 20, like I can't talk to 20 people. And then I look at John, that's my husband, and I was like, I probably talk to at least 100 people before 8 a.m. every single morning, including like every single bus driver, all of our leadership staff. And then I realized, like, wow, some people can't, like, they just don't want to do that.
Sure,
and
yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Takes all kinds, right? I have a follow-up question. You mentioned that the instructors are different than the counselors in terms of personnel. Has it always been that way, or is that something that you've evolved within your camp over the years?
I think there's a lot of different ways to run camps that I've seen. This kind of relates back to Tim's question earlier. What was camp like in 1991? For me, going to a camp in New Jersey or going to a sleepaway camp in Pennsylvania, it was basically like, here's a field, maybe two fields, and this is probably what you experienced in Ohio.
Yeah.
And here's some tables. These tables are used for arts and crafts, and you're gonna eat your boxed lunch that you brought, your bag, brown bag lunch from home on. And this field is where we do all the sports, and we don't really swim because we don't have a pool, or maybe there was like one pool.
Right.
It definitely wasn't heated, I'll tell you that for sure. So there are different camps for different kinds of people and different things. Like, I'm sure there are Girl Scout camps. 1 week Girl Scout camps are way different, run differently than our camp. So I would say that it's not specifically unique to the camp that we run, but there are other camps that run it similar to us. We just find that having a standard of practice of what we want the kids to actually get out of, their lessons, we want them to come away with some skills.
Sure.
And that's what we're providing. Can counselors probably do some of that? Maybe. But for us, it's more important that we hire these skilled professionals who can, translate some of that to the kids.
Sure. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm overwhelmed. I mean, and just to be clear too, I want to make sure everyone's aware. And Kari, you do have to like restate the name and the website and stuff like that for people.
For
But
sure.
but this is summer specific, right? So there is an off season. And I mean, is the off season equally as busy? Obviously, you don't have all the bodies and all of that energy, but is the off season as chaotic as the on season?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Definitely not. It's one of the things that I actually enjoy. I like the go, go, go of I would say from about April the middle of April till the end of August, we are, in full blown mode. Nothing, that's our time that we're operating. And then from about September through March, we are hiring staff. So I told you, one of the things with camp is that there are going to be great people that can't come back because they have to move on. And this is like a high turnover rate kind of thing. So we look to see who's coming back, who's not coming back. We re-interview every single one of our staff members. So even if you've worked here before, you get a re-interview, which takes up at least 2 or 3 months, re-interviewing every single person to make sure, what feedback do they have? Are they on board with what's going on? What position do they want? And spend time to get to know them, which is super important to us. One of the things that I learned really early on in my career is when you're taking care of other people's children and also taking care of my own children at the same time now, there's nothing more precious in life. That is it. It is one of the biggest, highest responsibilities that anybody could ever give to anybody. So in interviewing and making sure we have the right people who want to be here and take care of other people's children and understanding what that means is huge. So a lot of the off season is planning. We are very fortunate for the last 3 years since COVID. I think people had found a new love for outdoors and really seeing the value in what a camp community can provide for their children. So we have had a wait list for the last 4 years. We fill up in August for the following year. So we filled up at the end of August. We're waitlisted until, can't get a spot till 2026 now.
And what's the furthest distance that someone is traveling?
So we're in central New Jersey, located in East Brunswick, and we'll travel about 45 minutes for busing wise, and we bus everybody into our property, which is, busing is a fun, exciting. Wow. Facilities, one thing, transportation and medical, a whole other one.
Right, yeah, for sure. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you've really opened my eyes and our listeners' eyes to just the multifaceted components of this industry. It's really complex.
I almost like you equated it to a village, which obviously is it seems very appropriate, but like I'm trying to figure out if you're wearing less than 5 hats within that village. I don't think you are. Like just listening to hear like the small amount that I've listened to so far, it's like, okay, so she's the mayor, she's the transportation director, she's all these. It's like, my goodness, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around if you haven't been in it.
Yes. A lot of people have always told me like, oh, like your life would be great for a reality show because you just real. Like wouldn't believe some of the things that come across my desk, my plate, my face on a daily basis because of all of those hats. But it's fun, and I can't imagine doing something anything else. I really can't. I try to equate like, okay, if I wasn't doing this, where would I be successful? Where would I be happy? Right. Where there's like this much going on all the time and I can be so useful. And I don't know. I really do. The closest thing I could think of is like maybe like a college life supervisor or something like that. Like I really couldn't, but I was really trying to figure that out the other day.
Well, that's a great question, and that I think you present a really awesome question to our listeners as well in terms of thinking about that. I mean, a lot of people, I know I oftentimes have that complex of the grass is always greener someplace else, but when you really think about it, you sometimes find that you're in a really great spot. And I just want to go back one more time. I love the fact that this has been part of your journey from early on. I think that's really, really unique and speaks volumes. For sure. So I have one more question, Trav, if that's okay, before our impact question.
Yeah, go for it.
So, Kari, I think that like when I think about your role and all the just diverse groups of people that you engage or interact with on a daily basis, especially in the on season, in this sort of industry, you like we've talked about how you're kind of bombarded with information and energy and all this stuff. But what have you learned either about yourself or about people from either your role as a director or a manager or as a mentor to this, or as someone who just interacts with kids, and kids are really funny and silly and say things that are often quite profound?
I learned something new, honestly, like almost every single day of every single minute, that I'm surrounded by these amazing people that I work with. Because when you work with so many people and they have so many different skills and you're bringing them all together, to create this community, because ultimately people love camp. And I don't know if I'm the first person that you've ever come across. I can't be, to love camp. And there's a reason for it. It's because of everything. All these people of all different facets are coming together to live together, to be together in this moment, and nothing else matters. We call it like a camp bubble. We live in this bubble for 2 months that nothing, the outside world does not matter. Like, people will say, "Oh, do you remember in the summer of blah 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 when this was happening on the news or whatever?" I'm like, but could be happening 5 minutes down the road from me. But I am in this bubble with these people, and we are stuck here for 2 months, and that is the only thing that matters, and it is the coolest experience. And and to create the things that happen in that bubble for people, like I'm constantly thinking of like crazy things and like, how can we put this in? And are the kids going to like this? And are the kids going to be into this? And are the staff going to buy in? And like, to get everybody in all on the same page. Like when you have 1,000 people like singing, the same song over and over again, or fighting for the green team, like it's just, every experience is profound. Every conversation is incredible. Like, even the hard ones. There are hard conversations that I have at least 4 or 5 times a day with a staff member who, in their real world at school or in high school or at home or in college, they're not social. They don't have any friends. But when they step onto this bubble, they come alive. They feel that they can do anything or anything, everything in the world. Like it's so powerful. It's so impactful. And that's why the magic of camp works for kids and for staff. I would say for those who work here, which is incredible. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I kind of did.
I would say 100%. I love that. I love everything you shared. I wish that could, expand beyond the walls of camp.
It's funny, you talk about going back to the allegory to a village. It's like you've created your own village in terms of the world you want to make, if that makes sense. It's like how outstanding is that? How cool is that? And it's obviously, I sense a lot of humility, but if I can say it, it's like you're giving that to people, and that's a huge gift. That is a massive gift. It's not just memories, it's lessons, it's it's confidence. Like, I mean, that's awesome. That's the ultimate in giving back. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think Trav and I would both like, maybe if just for a couple of years, if you could take our children and just help them.
Yep, just
because
mold
they're
them.
not getting it from Trav and I.
Send them here, though. It's not a sleepaway camp, so they'll have to go to Tim's house. I'll bus them over.
All right, fair enough. They can walk.
It's actually true.
Trav, do you want to one more question, Kari, if you don't mind?
Yeah. Kari, we asked this impact question to every one of our guests, and you can take a minute to think about it if you need to. But can you name one experience or person that has had a profound impact on the person that you are today?
And most people say Trav and Tim, but you don't have to if you don't feel comfortable with that.
It's a great answer. It's definitely it definitely has been a life-changing experience.
No, sadly, nobody has mentioned either of us, but that's okay.
So I'll tell you about one person. So I had my first mentor in the camping field. I'm not going to mention his name because I'll tell you why. So he was a very powerful guy, but took a liking to me and really pushed me in my career to do things, to be better, to learn more, to get my master's degree, to, to really, I felt like he believed in me. But there was another side to this person that I would see a little bit of, who, when, this person was right, they were so right. But when they were wrong, they were so wrong. And it was such an interesting perspective at the time to go through that with somebody who invested in you, who cared about you and kind of fostered me along in my career and pushed me for a good probably 12 to 15 years of my first job. He was definitely the most impactful because I learned from him what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I also learned from him what not to be and what not to do, which has, impacted my daily life decisions to this day.
Sure. That's a very human experience. I appreciate that answer a lot.
I do too. Yeah, I really do. I mean, we all have our, our own frailty and things to work on and areas where we can improve. And I think that it's great to identify the ones where we want to do better. Right. And especially when it relates to exhibiting a behavior that we don't want to exhibit or, choices that we wouldn't make. So those help to identify who we are as people.
It's one of the main things that I've had this experience too, where I've had a really great counselor, like amazing staff member, where I go up to them, they know that when you're a great counselor, you're in my good books. Like they know me, I'm talking to them I'm with them all the time. So I go up to the end of the summer. I'm like, how was this, what do you think? You're going to be able to come back next year? Because, that's me. I'm like, we got to get this guy again. And I've had staff members look at me and be like, I've had a really great experience here, but I've learned that I don't want to work with kids ever again. So I think that's a a totally relatable story. I'm like, you learn what you want, what you don't want to do. And I've had that happen a bunch of times to me too. And I think it's great.
For sure.
Always learning. That's great, Kari. Awesome. Well, this has been so wonderful. I mean, it's incredibly insightful. I know, Trav, I think I speak for both of us. Just in terms of, I think more than anything, I'm just amazed and blown away at the level of responsibility that you have on your plate and how well you manage it, because it takes a special person to do that.
For sure.
Thank you.
And Kari, before we let you go, can you give us a quick plug for your camp for those that are within the area of your day camp?
Absolutely. So we own and operate Lakeview Day Camp, which is in East Brunswick, New Jersey. We service central New Jersey areas. And like I said, we have kids 4 years old to about 15 or 16. But if anybody is listening and interested, they got to enroll for 2026.
It's a good problem to have.
Thank God.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, Kari,
thank
you so much. No, thank you so much for your time. Obviously, you're incredibly busy. We'll let you get back to building your village and maintaining your village. But we really appreciate your insights, and we look forward to hearing listener comments about it. I'm sure, hopefully, your 2026 calendar will fill up maybe with one or two listeners as well.
Cool idea.
Thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed it as well.
Thanks, Kari. Take care.
All right. That was Kari Grove. I can't even begin to fathom the amount of stress that's involved with that job. And yet she talks about it with such passion and such love that you can tell she's exactly right where she needs to be, which is really cool to see.
That's a great point. Yeah. And has always felt that way, right? That is her space. So super interesting. And I agree with you 100%. I mean, she said, I think at least 1,000 kids and close to 300 staff. Like, that's a tremendous amount of responsibility. And to keep that many people safe and engaged with one another in a healthy way is no small feat. So a huge shout out to her and her team for the work that they do. That's incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, were you ever, I know we kind of touched on it a little bit in the interview, but were you ever a camp counselor?
I was, yeah, one summer. It was really interesting. I enjoyed it while it lasted.
Were you a Perrysburg rec counselor?
No. So I worked for, it was really interesting. The summer between I think it was my sophomore and junior year, I worked for a program called Homes for the Homeless. I think that's what it was. And it was just north in Harriman State Park in New York. And it was a beautiful opportunity for they essentially were providing opportunities for kids in shelters to come up and have these like 12 to 14-day experiences out, in nature. And I was a counselor there for the summer. It was really, really intriguing to have all of these like urban kids, out in the wild here.
Sure.
And myself included. I mean, it was a great program, but it was a lot of work, right? So I had like a firsthand experience. It was a sleepover camp, though. It's a little bit different than Kari's. Yeah. But man, they were beautiful kids, and it was just a really neat experience. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, I enjoy my bed and shower. Like, I don't know if I can. I can't rough it that long.
Yeah, that's a while. That is a little bit a long while.
Yeah. So, did you ever have an experience like that, or no?
Not overnight, but I was a camp counselor for a summer right before my freshman year in college. For the Perrysburg rec, and it was awesome. It was really fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really fun, and there's something about being surrounded by that much chaos, but also just in an organized way that makes it really fun. And, it was a really well-run program. So
that's cool, man. Yeah. And I think, you're touching on this now, and she shared it, that these kids are building relationships, and, what their institution is doing, is fostering these opportunities for these kids to have one another throughout the rest of their lives, which is really special.
So do you want to do dog therapy?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what's most important is we say that this is our last episode of the guest portion. We're going to come out with one more sort of a recap of season 1. I'm grateful for the time that we have spent kind of, dissecting this process. I've certainly learned a little bit through the process. It's been really interesting to have guests on who have talked about their animals and their passion for animals, especially Dr. Kate. But, things with Abby are status quo. So,
good.
But I think at the end of the day, Trav, and I do mean this sincerely, like, she's a really, really sweet dog. And there are qualities and characteristics about her that, and I see you laughing behind that microphone, dude. I see it. And I don't know.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm actually kind of swelling with pride because I feel a little bit partially responsible, at least, for bringing you to this point.
You can take some credit for that. Yeah, you can definitely take some credit for that because you were with me the whole way through. But she is a very, very sweet dog. And there's things about her that are, some of the things that bother me the most are the things that I love about her the most at the same time, when I really step away from it. So I'm grateful, and, I look forward to, I can't imagine in many ways, and this sounds insane, but I can't imagine life without her in some ways. So,
oh my gosh, we have come full circle.
All right, man. Listen, it's
another great episode, man.
Yeah, a lot of fun, always awesome. And just, we'll do a pitch for season 2 on the next one, but this is it for the guest. We'll have one more next Tuesday, and I'm really looking forward to kind of recapping our experience together. It's been really awesome. Yeah,
me too. I feel very thankful. So thank you for that.
Right on.
All right, buddy. Until next time.
All right, man. Stay well.
You too.
Tim and Travis on the mic, talking life and what's alike. Middle age, it's quite the ride, finding joy and chasing pride. Career dreams and daily grind, funny moments that we find. Letting go of yesterday, making paths along the way. Middle age. Middle-aged mayhem, breaking free, finding out who we can be, laughing, learning all the time. Tim and Travis in their prime. Every step a brand new plan, older, wiser, still we stand, navigating through the years, sharing stories, laughs and cheers. Free, finding out who we can be, laughing, learning all the time. Tim and Travis in their prime. Every step a brand new plan, older, wiser, still we stand, navigating through the years, sharing stories, laughs and cheers. Middle age and join the fun, middle age has just begun. Tim and Travis lead the way, every episode will slay.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're going to keep trying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. How's my hair, by the way? Was my hair okay during that episode?
It looked great. Talking about a septic system, I don't even know how the plumbing in my own house works. Holy
And really amazing and intense things happen. Do you want that?
I tell you.
That sounds pretty magical. Little love fest at the end.
I might have to cut that part out.
It's insane, dude. And cheese boards are expensive.